Hello, and thank you for being here today for Woodbridge Middle School's data overview presentation. For starters, my name is Robert Houghton. I've been teaching here at Woodbridge Middle School for 6 years now, and I am going to be analyzing the cumulative 6th, 7th, and 8th grade ELA milestone scores and examine students with limited English proficiency subgroup data afterwards. The intended audience is the school improvement. So, starting off, we have student demographics. Really, there's not much to say here in regard to gender demographics. They're pretty much consistent through and through, with a slight lean towards a male-dominated populace. But it's pretty much stayed the exact same throughout the years. There's nothing really noteworthy here. Here we have our economic data, which is actually a little bit more interesting. You can see from the year 2021 to the year 2024, we have had a steady decline in students eligible for free and reduced lunch. Our racial demographics also are mildly interesting. You can see between 21 and 24, we have had a steady increase in our Asian population and a steady decrease in our white population, with multiracial, Hispanic, and Black staying relatively consistent throughout the years. Here we have our educational program data, including ELL. We have 5 different demographics. We have Gen Ed, we have SPED, we have TAG, we have Remedial Ed, and we have ESOL, ELL. From this data, you'll notice that as time goes on, our percentage of TAG students is steadily increasing, as well as our ELL students, while SPED is, for the most part, in a decline, at least in recent years. And you can also see that our school population is steadily increasing as well. One other thing that you'll notice is that there are less Gen Ed in the year 24 rather than 21, as well as a slight fluctuation, but tending towards the decline in remedial ed. Here is our CCRPI data for the years 23 and 2024. We have it broken down into 3 different categories for Woodbridge, Fulton County, and Georgia. And you can pretty much see that we are consistently high here at Woodbridge. In 2023, Fulton County had an excellent year, and Woodbridge actually did a little bit lower, but you can see in 2024, Woodbridge did completely phenomenal with a 98.9 compared to the Fulton County's 87 and Georgia's 78.9. So we have terrific CCRPI results. Student demographics, English proficiency. We have a consistent 18% of our student populace has a limited proficiency in English, which, as we have a steady increase in student populace, that means that there is also a steady increase in limited English proficiency. Our educator demographics, we have a minority male population at our school, with 81.5% of teachers being female, and 78.3% of them are white, with 10.9 being Black, 7.6 Hispanic, 3.3 being Asian. So you can see that that does not really parallel with our student body and like our cultural community. It is a completely like inverted situation almost. I mean, Black Hispanic representation is in the ballpark in relation to the student data, but on the whole, we have very little Asian representation for a community that is predominantly Asian. We'll talk more about the meaning behind that later, but you'll also notice that a bulk of our teachers have well over 10 years experience. So we have a very skilled labor force, and there are 92 teachers in all. Summative milestone data. So this is our milestone data from the most recent year, 23-24. You can see that we have pretty excellent data, and you'll see throughout these next 2 slides that county and state data really doesn't fluctuate very much, but WBMS does have some notable changes that we'll focus on. You'll see that only 4.7% are beginning. You'll see that 12% are developing, and you'll see 46.1% are proficient, and 37.1 are distinguished. If we go to 22-23, distinguished drops down to 34%, proficient is at 46%. So just to remind you, proficiency is about the same, and distinguished went down about 3%, with beginning and developing mostly absorbing that difference. And you can see 21-22, distinguished 30%, again dropping by another 4% between the years, with proficiency staying exactly the same and beginning and developing absorbing that percentage. Obviously, that's not how this data works. But it is also important to note that this was at the tail end of our COVID crisis, so it would take time for our community and for our schools to rebalance. So we'll get more steady data and be able to form better conclusions the further we get from that pandemic disruption. But it's important to note in the last 3 years, we have had a significant uptick in distinguished proficiency, which is scoring a 4 on the CCRPI data. So ELA milestone data, WBMS, this is limited English proficiency analysis. This is the students with limited English proficiency separated out of the data for the holistic group. So the remainder is down here. We can see their percentiles, but we have the limited English specifically up here. And you can see that, funny enough, our distinguished percentiles have been dropping over the last 3 school years, which corresponds with the data that we saw for the holistic value. The right side, our beginning scores in the limited English proficiency category are also increasing. So while we are losing our distinguished portion, and we are also losing kind of our beginning portion as well, with developing pretty much absorbing the entirety of the whole. You can see that proficiency, specifically a score 3, has increased slightly and stayed about the same, but developing has mostly absorbed where these students or where these deficits have been occurring throughout the years. So what does this conclude? Well, we've got our strengths and weaknesses. Some of the strengths that we have here at WBMS is we consistently are one of the highest CCRPI scores in the state. 83.2% of students are performing at a distinguished and or proficient levels on the ELA milestones. There is a consistent rise in the number of students earning a 4 in the ELA milestones as well, on the whole, all student bodies. 53.3% of our teachers are incredibly experienced. They know how this field works. WBMS also has a very diverse population, with 72% of the students being ethnic minorities. Some of our weaknesses: for the past 3 years, 18% of our students have been reported as having limited English proficiency, and the number of EL students has continued to rise. Many of our students with limited English proficiency are not enrolled in an EL program. A majority of students with limited English proficiency are scoring at a beginning or developing level in the ELA milestone. The number of students with limited English proficiency scoring at the distinguished level has gone down over the past 3 years. And there is little racial or gender diversity among WBMS staff. So area of needs identified by this is that we need to support our EL students and students with limited English proficiency in subject areas such as ELA, students who have limited English proficiency and are not enrolled in an EL program. So next steps: how we can address the gap in understanding that is present among students with limited English proficiency. Work with ELL ESOL's department to assess the current needs of the ELL students, explore and evaluate interventions that are currently being used to support ELL students, identify what supports are being given to students with limited English proficiency who are not currently enrolled in the EL program, and collaborate with reading support staff to analyze areas of need that EL students have in ELA. So there's a couple of things to decompress here in regards to our next steps. For one, representation via teachers and the community. The teachers at WBMS, incredibly experienced people, but not ultimately that diverse. So understanding these students' needs while also modeling behaviors and expectations and learning patterns that are culturally sensitive to our students' needs is a little bit of a harder bridge for us to gap. In addition, our community culturally is kind of against getting accommodations for their students. They see it as a stigmatism that they don't want to be associated with. It's a kind of a status thing within our community. We've seen it a lot where we recommend students to receive additional supports and the parents vehemently deny giving those supports to their students. And this attitude towards additional support has been increasing over the years, with more and more students being denied the support that they need for either cultural reasons or socioeconomic reasons. But we need to work on destigmatizing these programs and making sure that these students are learning with the supports that they need. And part of that step is all of these next steps that I've previously listed. But anyway, that's our data. Thank you.